After spending 5000 hours on Paladin, bussing on it and getting Grandmaster on it twice, I finally made a PvE build that I'm happy with. This build has insane stagger, crazy survivability, and really good fate bar gain. Let me show you how fast this build is at going from 0 to full fate bar. Now, as you can see, this build does get the job done, however, you do need a few things to make it work. The first and most important thing is the Judgment Engraving. The Judgment Engraving basically gives you 2 times the fate gain on your blue skills, which are these ones right here. It used to be impossible to fit Judgment into your main build without a 9-7 stone, but now with the new ancient accessories coming out, you can have all 5 of the most important engravings at level 3 and Judgment at level 1 with a 7-7 stone. Your endgame build should look something like this. You could also go for a cheaper alternative and run Blessed Aura, Awakening Expert Vital Point hit on level 3, Judgment on level 1 and something like Max MP increase on level 1 or 2. Now, let's look at the skill build. The first and most important skill of the build is Charge. Now, what makes Charge so important? Well, the Judgment Engraving doubles the fate gain, and the level 10 tripod, Law of the Jungle, doubles the fate gain too. That means that this skill has 4 times its regular fate gain with the level 10 tripod plus Judgment Engraving. In case you don't understand what fate is, it's this bar right here, and once it fills up, you can use Blessed Aura, which is a really important skill as a paladin. Blessed Aura is a really important skill because with the correct tripods, it heals your teammates based on your max HP while also giving them a 20% damage reduction and damage based on your specialization in your stat bar. Well, now that that's out of the way, let's go back to Charge. An important thing to mention for Charge is the quick prep engraving. You want it at level 5 as fast as possible because realistically you want to spam the skill as much as possible. Also, Shining Protection is really nice because you have a 100% uptime on the shield with a high enough tripod level and low enough tripod cooldown. Also, due to the low cooldown and you having the level 10 tripod, Law of the Jungle, your stagger is quite consistent and very nice. The recommended skill rune for Charge is Legendary Focus, or if you're running max MP increase you can go with Wealth Rune, Purify, Quick Recharge or even Bleed. Next on the list we have Executor Sword. Now this skill isn't all that important, you put it in your skill bar just so you have a counter always ready to be used. It's also good for staggering. These are the tripods, you don't really have to level any of them as they don't really change much in regards to the skill. The skill rune that I recommend for Executor Sword is Legendary Overwhelm, but only if you have 2 of them. If not, use a purple Overwhelm instead. Now, let's look at Holy Sword. So this skill is your biggest stagger, but also one of your biggest fate gain skills. Your goal is to spam Charge and Holy Sword as soon as either of those skills is off cooldown, to stack as much fate as possible. The only tripod in the skill that you can actually level up, and that you should level up, is Positioning. The rest don't matter as much. Positioning gives the skill a faster cast time, which is good with how slow the skill actually is. The recommended skill rune for Holy Sword is Legendary Overwhelm, but if you for some reason don't need stagger, then you can use Wealth Rune instead, I guess. The next skill on the list is Light Shock. It's really important that you leave this skill on level 7. We spam it 24/7 and the less mana it uses the better. Not much to say about the skill other than the fact that you need to keep using it as soon as it's off cooldown. The reason why we spam Light Shock on the boss is to keep giving our teammates a 10% damage increase. The recommended skill rune for Light Shock is Focus Rune. If you run max MP increase you can use Quick Recharge, Bleed, Wealth or Purify Rune even. Now let's move on to Godsent Law. This is one of the most important skills in your entire arsenal. You can place it under yourself or under your teammates and literally tank mechanics that should not be tankable. Now, you need to level the shield tripod as high as possible. It's really important that you get it to level 4 or even level 5 because the higher the level of the tripod, the longer the shield lasts on you or your party members. The recommended skill rune for Godsent Law is Focus Rune, of course. Now, it's time to move on to Wrath of God. This skill is probably your best instant fade gain skill. You need to try your best to hit the boss with it because the fade gain is enormous. It's also one of the 2 skills in your kit that gives your entire party an attack power buff. The recommended skill rune for Wrath of God is Legendary Wealth Rune. You need to get Legendary Wealth Rune on it, it's so good. The next skill in the list is Holy Protection. Holy Protection is a skill that's able to shield, heal, and cleanse your allies. It's definitely one of the most important skills when it comes to keeping your teammates alive. You need to use it when you know your teammates are about to take a hit. As far as the tripods go, you can level up Quick Pace, you can level up Lingering Power, you can even level up Robust Protection. There's nothing really wrong with leveling up any of them. The skill rune that we'll be using for Holy Protection is definitely gonna have to be a focus rune. And the final skill we'll be talking about is Heavenly Blessing. This is your second highest fade gain skill and also your second damage buff skill. You are going to have to rotate between Wrath of God and Heavenly Blessing attack power buffs. You're also gonna make sure that your Heavenly Blessing is actually hitting the boss, because not hitting the boss with Heavenly Blessing is a huge fade gain loss. Another important thing to mention about Heavenly Blessing is that it gives your team a 20% damage reduction buff and also gives them mana recovery increase based on the tripod level of this tripod right here, so I do recommend getting it to level 5. And of course, in regards to Heavenly Blessing skill rune, we go for Purple Wealth because we have Legendary Wealth on Wrath of God. Next, let's talk about the card set. Now, the card set you should be aiming for is Lastwind Cliff 30 Awakening because it gives you and your teammates a 3.5% increase in holy damage. Now, if you don't have Lastwind Cliff, don't sweat it because you can always run You Have a Plan, and it basically gives you and your teammates a 1.5% damage increase. And if you don't have either of those card sets, don't worry, you can always run Farewell Weapon or Field Boss because it gives you a 12% max HP increase, which also stacks with your healing and your shields. I think the engraving route should be pretty clear right now. As far as accessories go though, you go full swiftness as much as you can, and you go for swiftness and spec on necklace. By spec I mean specialization obviously, but just making it clear, you know. And as for bracelet, you need to make sure it has Swift and Spec on it, because you need as much Swift and Spec as possible. Now, let's move on to the gems. Paladin doesn't need damage gems, so don't waste money on them. What you should be doing is getting your Heavenly Blessing and Holy Protection cooldown gem as high as possible. Heavenly Blessing and Holy Protection have the highest cooldown, so you're getting a ton of value from getting high level cooldown gems on those 2 skills. Not to mention, one of them is an attack power buff, while the other keeps your teammates alive. The next cooldown gem you should focus on is Godsent Law, and after that it doesn't matter as much. You can get the rest of the gems at level 7 or 8 and it's gonna be just fine, honestly. The last thing I'll go over is when do you want to use your ultimate exactly, and when do you want to use your Blessed Aura. You use your ultimate at the start of the fight, then you Blessed Aura, then you get another Blessed Aura up during the ultimate cooldown. You use that Blessed Aura before your ultimate is back off cooldown, and then you ultimate again. That way you use 2 Blessed Auras every ultimate. Here's an example. I think that about sums it up. Thank you for watching. If you got any more questions, then feel free to ask them in the comment section below. I also stream on Twitch if you're interested in more Paladin gameplay.